Creatine, wonder drug.
Yeah. I'm Dave, Rooster.
Everyone knows who we are.
I shouldn't laugh. I laugh every time. Chris,
Yeah. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, Matt.
Hello, Dave.
I've been sober. I'm 24 days sober.
It's an interesting one.
Creatine, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, it's
natural substance found in your muscle cells.
Yeah. A few little myths surrounding it, but I've been using creatine or supplementing with creatine for years, and my hair hasn't fallen out. And I find it, being an older person training, I still find it gives me energy to train. It helps my recovery, and that could be a lot of other things. I find that it keeps a bit of muscle sort of development tone. It's helped me out. I swear by it. 5 grams a day, a teaspoon a day.
Yep. That seems to be the dose, doesn't it? Everyone seems to talk about 5
Depends who you
grams a
speak
day
to.
if you're training.
Yeah.
If you're training weights.
Yeah.
Some people talk about a higher dose if you are a bigger individual, you're doing more activity, more lifting stuff. But 5 is usually the thing. There's a little bit about overloading dose initially, like kind of saturating your muscles when you're first starting it. But I think that's a bit of a debunked myth now, that you don't have to do that anymore. It was big in the bodybuilding era where you put 20 grams in it for the first 5 days, and then you taper it off to 5 grams. But I think that's
I've heard that that's still a thing, that people still do it, but maybe they're just following that old
I think probably
sort of
people
protocol.
still do it, but I think the science is now I might have had a study.
Unproven.
Yeah, I was listening to some people talk about that, and they were basically saying, do it, don't do it, doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But if you're naive to creatine, like you haven't taken it, you will just get that saturation level a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
So if you're in a rush and you really want to get your muscles saturated with it, then obviously you can. I've heard like as high as 30 grams a day from some people, which might be bro science like we spoke about, but I think they were saying essentially there's no downside to that in terms of safety. So if you want to load it, you can do 5 or 7 days, but if you want to just take 5 a day, you'll get there eventually anyway. It might take you a week or two longer.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're sort of good to go. So I guess either for that.
Yeah.
But interesting compound.
It is,
like,
and
it goes beyond bodybuilding, doesn't it? Like there's
Yeah.
other benefits.
That's right.
Which I
So
guess we'll
let's start with what is it?
Yeah.
Go from there.
Well, your body produces it itself. It's a naturally produced molecule.
Yeah. But your body doesn't produce 5 grams.
No,
It
not at
produces
all.
between sort of 1 and 3.
Yeah.
It's an organic acid, 3 amino acids joined together.
Yep.
Not a protein. We talked about peptides in our last episode. It's almost a peptide, isn't it?
Ooh, jeez.
With the definition of a
Should ban
peptide.
it.
Yeah. Arginine, glycine, methionine.
Yep.
Mix of those 3 amino acids. Yeah. Naturally produced.
Yeah.
Produced. Found in lots of red meat, muscle meat, lamb, beef, in herring and salmon in large amounts.
Yeah.
Oh, is it quite high in some seafood? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not very much in chicken or dairy.
No.
Yeah. And like we're saying, we produce about 1 to 3 grams a day. It's used by muscles and the brain. I didn't realise so much.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah. I just thought it was a muscle thing for, synthesis of or rapid movement, sprinting, powerlifting, those
With
sort of
anaerobic,
things.
like explosive movements.
Yeah, we could get into the biochemistry of the breakdown of ATP to ADP and then resynthesizing it to...
I reckon we'll touch on that briefly.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Well,
That's the important part of how it creates energy for you.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to think about how then the body uses it and why we should probably use it for muscle sort of stuff.
Just
so we
going
could
on,
do that.
You just mentioned those 3 amino acids, mate: arginine, glycine, and methionine.
Yeah.
So the first two, arginine and glycine, are your non-essential aminos. So your body produces them naturally, but the methionine is an essential amino. So our body doesn't produce it so you sort of need to supplement it. So I was just wondering, and I didn't find an answer to this, but I was just wondering whether to make creatine more effective for you, could you also consider supplementing with methionine?
Well, I think they talk about methionine being very high in red meat. So if you are eating a lot of red meat, you don't really need to. In fact, that glycine methionine ratio between the two, you probably need to have that not being too high in the methionine range.
Right.
Not be too much methionine to glycine. So a lot of people take glycine as a supplement on its own. We do
including this guy.
on that.
Yeah, I do as well.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah, maybe we'll do one on glycine because that's also a bit of a wonder drug too.
Yeah. It is.
But if you're not eating a whole bunch of red meat and you're taking creatine, that ratio won't be too far off.
Yeah.
Okay,
so there's no need really to supplement with methionine.
No, probably more so glycine because you're probably going to get more methionine from
red meat's packed with it.
Right.
I would just say, springboarding off what you were talking about in your diet and stuff, vegetarians are often quite low because they're not getting all those natural sources. So if you're a vegetarian, and particularly if you want to train, you probably definitely need to think about creatine as one of the options because your body will naturally have less. You just can't make enough.
Yeah. And so that vegetarians would probably need to supplement with methionine then because they're not getting it from red meat.
Possibly, depending on what other protein sources they're getting. But I mean, I'm not a huge fan of vegetarianism if you're talking about it just purely from a health point of view. I think from an ethical point of view, that's awesome. You're an amazing person. But in terms of like being the most like biochemically sound person, I think it's harder. Like you can do it, but you got to supplement with a heap more stuff. Creatine's definitely one of them. Carnosine, carnitine. There's heaps. You could probably chuck methionine on there. I'm not 100% up with how rich it is in certain vegetable sources, but then whether they're getting those or not, depending on your individual diet, would probably change. But I'm just looking at a quick study here, and they suggest that total muscle creatine in vegetarians is significantly lower. It just goes on to say, obviously, because if you have an omnivorous diet, then that's where you're going to get your creatine from. You're having your meats and your fishes and things like that. So those guys do need to watch out and just if you want to get your levels up to ideal, then think about a supplement. Yeah. Not bashing vegos, just the truth.
Yeah.
Consult your medical professional.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
No, that's a good definition, CJ.
Yeah, that was good, mate. Thank you.
But it's a high energy. It's an important energy source, isn't it?
Yeah.
The ADP and ATP system.
Yeah.
And like you said, responsible for your short burst, high intensity sort of. If we're talking exercise.
Yeah. It seems like it's reuse when the ADP and adenosine diphosphate, triphosphate, 2 of the phosphate molecules or 3. I think it's good, or it reuses one of those ones that are broken off during. This is a real layman's sort of term. In our anaerobic activities, anaerobic being fast, under 10 to 15 seconds, it's then reusing the breakdown of energy from ATP.
Yep.
So it's helping that to the creatine or the phosphocreatine system.
Yeah.
It helps sort of recycling waste product, I guess, from that cycle to then reuse as energy.
I guess it's almost like re-energizing that ADP, isn't it?
Yeah,
so like you've got your
it's
ATP, your adenosine triphosphate.
Yeah.
It's a high energy bond, so it breaks one phosphate off to release that energy, which is what you use for muscular contraction.
Yep. In fast stuff. Yep.
And then you've got the creatine phosphate system. That's got a high energy phosphate bond, which will sort of donate back to that ADP to make ATP so you can go again. So it's just a recycling.
Exactly.
It's a way of recycling your energy system, essentially, isn't it? Like, I guess, to sort of talk about it in basic terms.
Well, that's how I describe it. Recycling. It's picking up it's picking up a bit of a waste product and reusing it for high end energy.
Yes.
And it's a very fast process, it re-establishes itself within like a minute. So that's why generally when you're doing like a high intensity sort of thing, like you'll have a short rest period within that high intensity exercise. During that rest period, your ADP is being replenished with that extra phosphate molecule to recreate your ATP for your next bout of exercise.
Yeah, spot on.
Yeah, so it happens quite rapidly.
Yeah.
So I guess your body can do that in other ways, but creatine just assists your body to do it more efficiently, and it's got that phosphate building block there, I guess, just ready to go within the muscle, because obviously creatine is living, predominantly within your muscle tissue. So
that's right.
It's right there, ready to go. Seems to just be an extra boost that you can give yourself to get that edge.
Yep. And that system is called the creatine phosphate energy system, or sometimes called the ATP phosphate energy system. So we have a lot of energy systems. I think
ATP,
the Krebs cycle's an energy system. We've got energy systems within our body used for different things. But that ATP phosphate energy system is the most effective system for high intensity, short burst training.
Yeah.
Good for heavy weight, low rep type exercises as well.
Yeah.
What did you guys come across for its efficacy in like cardio, like longer, slower cardio? It doesn't seem to be massively beneficial. Like I think the benefits for high intensity stuff like we're talking about seem to be pretty good.
Yep.
I've sort of read like 5 to 15% increase in performance.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys got similar, but for aerobic stuff, it doesn't seem to be massively beneficial. It wouldn't be harmful, but I don't think it's going to really give you heaps of an edge like it will for anaerobic, sort of powerlifting,
I think that's
sprinting sort of stuff.
Well, I think at any one point we're using all the different type of energy systems to make energy in the body. So cardio would just be using it, but just less at times, I guess. Yeah. So it's definitely for that high end energy of explosive sort of stuff.
Yeah, I read some sort of studies that couldn't confirm that there was any benefit for aerobic type training, and in fact it said there's some sort of negative effects with like increased water retention and stuff like that within the muscles that might be a detrimental effect for a long distance runner or something like that.
They talk about it pulling water into the muscle, don't they?
Yeah.
Interestingly, there's a whole bunch of other side effects. So there's not side effects. It's the wrong word, isn't it? Benefits. So they talk about. I mean, there's thousands. It's probably the most studied supplement out there, I reckon. There's thousands of studies, and now some of them are coming up with increased muscle performance, better for strength, but now they're talking about bone mineral density. So you especially for older people, moving into the the older phase of life,
definitely.
Bones are becoming brittle, falling down is an issue.
Reducing sarcopenia. In conjunction with some light exercise for elderly.
And even sort of cognitive stuff, executive function in the brain. It's decreasing neurodegenerative disease, even stuff on TBI, traumatic brain injuries and concussions. It's not going to prevent it or treat it, but it seems like it's got a sort of neuroprotective healing effect. So I just thought, I found that was amazing. You talk about being in the sports science world, having a background in sports science. Creatine was always this sort of wonder molecule that's going to help your performance, but it's got these flow-on effects that they're now finding in probably thousands of studies in there about helping the brain, muscle, bone.
Well, the study I come across, mate, and I actually was under the impression that research is less comprehensive with creatine and cognitive benefits. But if you're saying the opposite, I mean, I didn't come across too many, but the one I did find was that they've shown a reduction in mental fatigue in certain situations, like particularly highly stressful situations, and ones that include sleep deprivation and exercise to exhaustion. So in those situations there, creatine supplementation has helped overcome mental fatigue. And may also reduce symptoms of depression. So amongst
I saw that one.
That's an interesting one.
So amongst people with depressive, existing depressive issues, and also bipolar patients, creatine can help reduce symptoms of depression.
I've got a couple of studies for you on that one. If you don't. So South Korean study: 52 women with depression added 5 grams of creatine In addition to, they were taking antidepressants, so creatine and their antidepressants. They didn't come off it, but just by the addition of the creatine, they all got improvement in their symptoms as early as 2 weeks, and that improvement was continuing at week 4 and week 8. Another study, 14 females with both depression and an addiction to methamphetamine. The outcome of the study was treatment is a promising therapeutic approach for females with depression and methamphetamine dependence. So it does seem to be a bit of a do-it-all sort of...
There was a study on long COVID too, I saw.
Oh, was there?
Yeah,
Really?
Creatine long
Yeah.
COVID. I didn't actually look at that one, but it was there when I searched it. But meth helps with meth addiction.
Yeah,
How about that? Maybe it's fixing pathways in the brain.
it might be, because
Yeah.
some of the stuff I came up with was that it's very good for injury prevention, sort of helping everything like muscle, bone, like we spoke about, but also tendons, ligaments, and nerve. So
Yeah.
maybe it's helping with nerve repair,
Yeah.
regeneration.
Yeah.
The brain stuff makes sense to me, because essentially the brain uses 20% of your body's energy, and this
Yeah.
is essentially helping with an energy pathway. So you've
Yeah.
got that, ATP.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe people are getting that cognitive boost because their brain can just work a bit better because it's got access to more energy.
Yeah.
And particularly, like you were talking about, exercise to exhaustion and stuff like that, and then they're testing them. Like maybe if you're absolutely knackered, you've used up all of your body's energy stores, and maybe your brain starts working a little bit optimally, and then maybe that boost of creatine can sort of help with a bit more energy reserve. Maybe. I'm just kind of spitballing ideas here, but I've got a cognitive ability little study here as well. After taking a 5-gram creatine supplement each day for 6 weeks, 45 participants scored better on memory and intelligence tests, particularly timed tests taken under pressure. So they did a lot better than people who were taking a placebo. And it seems like those cognitive enhancements are even more beneficial in elderly
Yeah, right.
than sort of younger people for the cognitive stuff. So
Interesting.
yeah, there's a bit out there. Like it's quite an interesting little supplement.
It's got a wide-ranging effect. It didn't seem to have any negative side effects other than
No,
that.
I was going to say we should talk about the
Water,
safety, because I think it's pretty safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Water retention and maybe a little bit of bloating, I think.
But just on those benefits as well, we skimmed over those physical benefits.
Yes.
But
Yes.
the main benefit, obviously, improvement in strength and power output during resistance exercise, increase in lean muscle mass in conjunction with resistance exercise. There was one in trained athletes, reduced body fat, and an increased anaerobic exercise performance, strength and power output. So, a couple of good benefits physically,
Yeah. So
athletically.
So it always talks about being beneficial for that exercise component, more power, more strength, etc. Interestingly, I found like a study that mentioned because people often take it before exercise, almost like a bit of a pre-workout. But I found a study that said it didn't really matter when you took it before or after.
I read the same, mate.
I
Yeah.
actually read one that said there could be a slight benefit in actually taking it after.
Yeah, okay.
But then
Yeah,
I've listened
right.
to some very trusted people talk about it, and
Yeah.
the thing seems to be, doesn't really matter.
Doesn't
Just take
matter,
it.
yeah.
Just take it.
So
Yeah.
that's interesting in the fact that it must then store in your muscle. So if you've got a accumulated amount, it's in your muscle, it's ready to go for when you do that exercise, rather than having to take a pill before you do it or powder, whatever you do. I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's sort of like the opposite of using something like caffeine,
Yeah, it's
where you'd
like
be
a
using it as a stimulant,
Yeah,
so you
you
want
think
to take it beforehand and get that
bit of a
buzz.
pre-workout kind of thing. Yeah,
Whereas almost like with creatine, it's like your muscle is a battery that's fully charged with creatine.
yeah,
Then maybe you go and do a workout, and then maybe the best
Before
time
you
to take it is afterwards to then replenish that.
yeah.
Yeah. But alternatively, you would have thought that pre-workout, you're then adding that store in your muscles with more.
Yeah.
It does make sense, doesn't it? Because
Yeah.
then you think, well, maybe my muscle battery is full of creatine, but
Yeah.
then as I use it, maybe if I take it before, it'll sort of suck it in during. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
it's interesting. There wasn't really any determinable,
definitive,
definitive studies on it.
Yeah.
no, I listened to Peter
interesting.
Attia, who's a pretty switched guy. He does a lot of good research, and he
Yeah.
was interviewing another very intelligent fella, and even they were like, doesn't really seem to matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The most important thing is just don't forget to take it. Just take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, every all the longevity experts seem to say it's one you should be taking.
Yep.
Because I think if you're taking it on a daily basis at 5 grams a day, you're supplementing those stores in your muscles anyway.
Yeah.
Like over time,
You're topping them up.
you're topping them up continuously.
Exactly.
Then you've got rest days for your training as well, so that's going to keep that storage in your muscles at a high level.
Yeah. Interesting, the 1 kilogram of red meat has 1 gram of creatine.
Yeah.
So
That's not heaps, is it?
No. So to get the 5 milligrams is what 5 grams. Sorry, what they recommend to take a day, you got to have 5 kilos of meat. You're probably not doing
That's
that.
going to be tough. Even when I was carnivore, I was like, about a kilo a day.
Yeah. So supplementation. It's usually in a powder form, isn't it? You can get it in a pill form, which is essentially a powder that's portioned out for you.
Yeah.
But people usually mix it in with a pre-workout or a post-workout shake. I think if you're using a shake, it's probably pretty good to grab a bit of powder and just throw it in there.
I just throw my creatine in my water bottle.
Yeah.
And just mix it up.
Yeah.
It's tasteless.
Because it dissolves.
Yeah.
Do you have like a flavoured version, or is it just pure, just
Monohydrate.
monohydrate?
Creatine
Because there's a few
monohydrate.
versions around, isn't
There
there?
is, and I believe that creatine monohydrate is the better one.
I think it's the most studied and doesn't seem to be much benefit to
it
go
is
into
the
more
most-
exotic ones.
Yeah,
Or-
most studied and
cheapest.
most economical. Yeah.
Cheapest, and it's the best, they reckon.
Yeah.
All those studies that they've done.
Yeah.
So why not go for that one?
Yeah. Some going back onto the negatives now that we've touched on earlier. There was actually, sorry, just before we do, there was an idea that creatine helped increase testosterone levels, and apparently there were some studies done specifically on seeing whether creatine increased testosterone levels, and 3 studies were done, and they actually showed a slight increase in testosterone. And the reason I'm just getting onto that leads me into one of the myths or / negatives of it, referring to hair loss.
Yeah.
Because these 3 studies showed an increase in testosterone. Now that could also sort of be caused by the subjects who were...
Could have been due to training.
Exactly right. So they were resistance training, they were like, their sleep might have been good, which are all things that help increase testosterone. But these 3 studies showed a slight increase in it. One of those 3 studies showed an increase in DHT, which is the metabolite of testosterone that binds to DHT receptors in hair follicles, which then may shrink and stop producing hair. That's where that theory comes from.
Yeah, I think dihydrotestosterone, DHT, is what they found in people that are balding. They find it in their scalp a lot more than people that don't have it, or it's circulating in their blood more than people that don't have. So when they did those studies, they found DHT increased a little bit, and they thought it may
correlate. But I think, and I've looked at other like YouTube videos and doctors speaking, saying that that's actually a myth of creatine, that it causes hair loss.
Yeah.
It's sort of somewhat on the pathway, right? I think that's how they made the connection. Like it could possibly happen, but I don't think it's ever been fully proven or tested properly. And
that study that was done that showed the increase in DHT was a single randomised trial of 20 healthy male rugby players who saw an increase in DHT after supplementing with creatine for 21 days. So it's...
that study was done in 2009 and it's never been reproduced. They've never done another study that's associated creatine with higher DHT. So they can't replicate that. So I think it might have been a false flag, because I think from what I read, they're sort of saying creatine is not gonna affect your DHT, and don't think it's going to affect your hair either.
Well, that's good to know, because my teenage son, who's starting weightlifting with me, or some training, he's reluctant to try creatine.
Oh, really?
Because he's been told that it causes hair loss.
Isn't it funny that a study...
He's a young kid, he's not going to lose his hair when he's 16.
I know.
Worry about it when you're 50, mate.
I know.
Your old man's still got hair and he's in his 50s, you could probably go on alright.
Exactly, but I mean, he's a kid that's probably seeing things on TikTok or bloody whatever the shit they watch these days, and seeing something that's made him think, oh no, I don't want to lose my hair.
Isn't it funny that a 20-person study can change people's outlook on a certain supplement or...
Mate, it's like anything.
They
you
do
can
it with everything,
find... You could throw mud at anything.
Yeah.
Because there'll always be a study that
Yeah.
proves or disproves anything you like.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can look through, whatever lens you want. But the most common side effect I came up with was just gastrointestinal discomfort.
Yeah.
So it seems like, especially if you take it in high doses, a lot of people get sort of like bloating and some GI symptoms, maybe a bit of nausea.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned once, CJ, that if you have it in conjunction with caffeine or after your coffee, that creates a bit of upset tummy.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it was empty stomach, or maybe it was But I put it in my coffee, and I don't know. Maybe if you heat it up,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Could have an effect on it. Yeah.
But I definitely used it during a fast. I don't know if it was a placebo effect, but if I felt low on energy, I'd have some creatine
That's a
before
good
a
idea.
workout, and it seemed to bump me up, and I'd feel better.
Yeah,
I don't know
right.
if that's all a mental sort of thing, but it helped. So
I did come across something that mentions the use of caffeine and creatine, and it said combining caffeine with creatine will decrease the efficacy of creatine.
Is that right?
So in other words,
Yeah.
don't use them together.
Okay, yeah.
They went on further to talk about if you're using creatine in combination with higher doses of caffeine, so more than 300 milligrams, which is a fair bit, it can worsen Parkinson's disease potentially.
Ooh, wow.
So,
Okay.
like everything, I guess it's got its little nuances.
Yeah.
But maybe have your coffee before the gym and your creatine afterwards, or just don't have too much.
Yeah. And I guess the
Doesn't
other
seem to be a big deal.
No, the other myth is that it has a negative side effect on your kidneys.
Yeah, there's heaps about that, eh?
Yeah. So the research I looked into was basically that energy process we mentioned earlier, the ADP to ATP back to ADP, produces a byproduct called creatinine. So that creatinine is effectively excreted by your kidneys. If kidney function is impaired, then creatinine excretion is reduced, obviously, and then that will then show high creatinine levels in your blood if you get a blood test, which can therefore indicate impaired kidney function. But it's not caused by creatine. The creatinine levels in your blood, if they're high, would indicate the kidney function being impaired.
Yeah, that's exactly what I come up with, mate. Same thing.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a false flag, red herring sort of thing where you can go and get bloods and be like, "Ooh, look at your creatinine," and it's like, well, yeah, but there's other ways to look at kidney function.
Yeah.
Because they can use creatinine to indirectly start looking at your glomerular filtration rate, like how well your kidneys are working and stuff like that. And sometimes the creatinine levels can throw doctors off and stuff, but there's a number of other ways that they can get around that if they're a good practitioner.
Yeah, right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, if you have existing impaired kidneys function or some issues with your kidneys, then you'd probably want to consult with someone, a specialist, before going on to creatine. But if you've got healthy kidneys, there's no problems whatsoever.
Yeah, I saw a study. They gave people 30 grams, which is more than most people would take every day for 5 years, and no negative health effects. So pretty much everyone who's anyone in the wellness world now is like, creatine's safe. There's obviously going to be caveats to that depending on someone's individual circumstances, but for the majority of people, creatine long-term safe.
Yeah.
So that's good, because I mean it's very effective, it's very cheap,
It is.
it's easily available,
Yeah.
it's easy to take, just drink it.
Yeah, it's a great energy source. I just find it just keeps my energy levels up.
Well, I've heard top-level bodybuilders and powerlifters and stuff say this is one of the most effective natural supplements you can take.
Yeah.
They're like, if you're taking some of this other fancy stuff that you can get from all your supplement stores and you're not taking creatine, they're like, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, creatine should be the first thing that you put on your list of supplements if you're trying to gain size, gain strength, work on your
or if you're training.
explosive. If you're training, yeah, exactly.
Any type of
trying to do any sort of muscular
Yep.
training.
Yep.
Seems like a no-brainer, doesn't it?
No-brainer.
And then it's got these flow-on effects of brain health, bone density, those kind of things that are pretty good stuff to have on the side.
Yeah.
But even based on the performance stuff, that's enough to take it on its own. But it's got all these other effects. So
even a busy mum, and why can't
anyone,
they're on their
really.
feet every day running around. I mean, creatine could help their energy levels.
Yep, and particularly if you've got a diet maybe that's a bit lower in red meat
Yeah.
seafood, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just depending on sort of how your eating patterns are.
Yeah.
I also heard that if you're an elderly person who isn't doing any training, like you just want to take it for the cognitive benefits, you can sort of take like 1 or 2 grams a day. That'll be enough to sort of feed your brain.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily working your muscles hard. And stuff
Yeah.
like that. So if you just want to use it for the cognitive effects when you're older, I reckon 1 or 2 grams is enough.
Yeah. I know. I even read that it's a supplement that still is okay for kids and teenagers. So even children, obviously not, probably not for infants or whatever, but even school age kids, it's a supplement that they could even take.
In terms of for cognitive stuff, you mean? Or?
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's good little supplement. It's good that it's cheap. I mean, you can buy it for so little money. If you just buy a bag of creatine monohydrate, it costs you almost nothing.
Yeah, $20 if that. Yeah,
and it'll last you a long time.
Yeah, it does.
What did you guys come up with cycling it on and off? Or what do you guys do? You both take it?
Yeah, I just take it all the time.
Yeah.
There was there's thousands of studies, and I don't think there's any been done too much on cycling yet. I don't know why that hasn't been done. I don't know. It just seems like because it's so safe and effective, people are just using it all the time. There doesn't seem like there's any benefit to cycle on it or off it. But I couldn't really find a study about it. I know people talk about cycling it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe, I don't know, yeah. I couldn't really come up with a reason why you would cycle off it. I think it's just pretty good to take every day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't cycle it. I just use it every day, and I'll probably just go off it if I'm going on a holiday or something like that.
Yeah.
And, it'll just give me a chance to maybe have a break from it.
Yeah.
You know, but it's not an intentional one. It's just that I don't want to have to take it with me on a holiday or something. You know.
Yeah.
Safe to use every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
It's a goodie. I mean,
Get into it.
Get into it. Get into your creatine.
Yeah.
Not sponsored by a creatine company.
No.
No.
Yeah, and if
Maybe we get bulk nutrients or something.
Ooh.
They can sponsor us and talk about something.
yeah, that's where I get mine from.
Yeah.
Bulk nutrients.
Yeah.
It comes
Well, they're a good Aussie company.
They are. Yeah.
They are. Yeah.
based in Tassie, I think, and they've
Yep.
got all their stuff's done in down there. So.
Yeah, and if you want any good information, I've got a lot of my information, and they include a lot of studies. Is examine.com.
Oh yeah.
Examine.com are an amazing resource for supplements, nutrition, exercise, everything.
Any research. Really.
Yeah, you just chuck in the search bar, just creatine, and it comes up with so much info. It sends you down to all these little rabbit warrens of studies and different bits of information. So yeah, examine.com, good source of info.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool.
All right.
Well, that might wrap it up. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Short and sweet.
Yeah.
I reckon.
Good stuff. Well done, boys.
We'll see you next week, eh?
See you next time.
Time for the air guitar.
What are we chatting about next week, just quickly, boys? Doing a bit of
didn't we have
bit of saturated fat.
yes.
Saturated fat.
Yeah.
Interesting. So if you're still listening, join us next week.
Yeah.
That'll be a good one because
Yeah.
it's pretty controversial.
A controversial, debatable topic, isn't
It's
it?
not like creatine. It's not like everyone pretty much is on the same page. You've probably got 2 camps with the saturated fat one. So we'll get into it, but join us next week. Have a listen. It'll be
Cool.
good.
Beautiful.
All right,
See you
boys.
then.
See you next week. Thanks, mate.